As always, the Premier League has been full of surprises this season. Few, if any, expected Arsenal to be the pace-setters of 2022-2023, while the form of newly promoted sides Fulham and Nottingham Forest have also been a welcome surprise. But perhaps the biggest shock of all lies in the South Coast, with Brighton finding themselves in 6th place with slightly more than half the season played. The Seagulls' record of 10 wins, 4 draws and 6 losses sees them boast more victories than both Chelsea and Liverpool. However, it hasn't been a straightforward season by any account. In the summer, Brighton lost big players. Yves Bissouma and Marc Cucurella departed for Tottenham and Chelsea, while Neal Maupay joined Everton. And in January, another tough window saw the Seagulls lose starman Leandro Trossard, with ex-teammate Moises Caicedo keen to follow him out the door. However, Brighton were able to keep hold of the latter. After recovering well from the summer window, in early September, manager Graham Potter left the club to join Chelsea, with Brighton receiving around £21.5 million in compensation. However, at the time, that hardly seemed a fitting consolation. Potter took several members of his backroom staff with him to Stamford Bridge, largely gutting the core of an exceptionally run club, with most people assuming their overachieving would come to an end. But that could hardly be further from the case. Brighton appointed Udinese boss Roberto De Zerbi, a relatively unknown managerial prospect who arrived with big shoes to fill, but so far he's surpassed all expectations. Rather than trying to reinvent the wheel at Brighton, De Zerbi has primarily played the same system used by his predecessor, replicating the Englishman's success while doing so. Granted, De Zerbi has made slight alterations, but the same core group of players and philosophies have continued to impress for Brighton. However, while albeit forced, one change De Zerbi has made to his Brighton side is bringing Japanese winger Kaoru Mitoma into the fold, one of the top performers since the Premier League's post-World Cup restart. The rise of Mitoma. Mitoma arrived at Brighton aged 24 and as a J1 League and Japanese Super Cup champion back in the summer of 2021-2022, before being loaned to Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium. Since his return to England, Mitoma has become the latest Brighton player to transition seamlessly into the Premier League, joining a long list of players over recent years to excel at the Amex. Together with Graham Potter, technical director Dan Ashworth has continually unearthed talent from afar at Brighton, with Mitoma being one of several stellar signings as recently as the 2018-2019 summer window. Since then, and with Potter in charge, Brighton have welcomed Leandro Trossard, Neal Maupay, Adam Webster, Tariq Lamptey, Adam Lallana, Joel Veltman, Danny Welbeck, Moises Caicedo, Marc Cucurella, and of course, Mitoma. If this sounds familiar, it's because it is, with this group of players either having been moved on for significant profits like Cucurella and Trossard, or still forming the core of Brighton's current squad, and the most recent name to garner widespread attention from not just his own fans, but the rest of the league is Mitoma. Before Trossard's fallout with Brighton and De Zerbi, the Belgian had a monopoly on the left wing spot, and rightfully so. He performed exceptionally in the last few campaigns, leaving the Amex as the club's top scorer this season with 7 goals. However, Mitoma has already equalled that tally. Pre-World Cup, Mitoma had only been used sparingly by Potter and De Zerbi, but it was his experience in Qatar, coupled with Trossard's exit, that has been the catalyst in his newfound form. Mitoma played his part in Japan's World Cup campaign, even picking up an assist in their famous win over Spain as they reached the knockout rounds. The Japanese earned praise for their astute technical ability and work rate as individuals and as a team. These characteristics are evident in Mitoma's post-tournament performances. He has been ever present in a Brighton goals, having also scored a dramatic last-minute winner to knock holders Liverpool out of the FA Cup. More on that later. And the numbers speak for themselves. He's enjoying an extraordinary run on form, but he's far more than just a goal scorer. Analysing Mitoma. Watching Mitoma, 3 things stand out above everything else: his running, dribbling and shooting. Mitoma has formed a strong on-pitch bond with left-back Pervis Estupiñán, with the duo being De Zerbi's favoured partnership on the left in his 4-2-3-1 system. As a two, they collectively cover the whole left side of the pitch, with Estupiñán regularly breaking forward to overlap Mitoma, and in reverse, Mitoma will often drop deep to collect the ball from his own half. Comparing the duo's heat maps, Estupiñán likes to invert and occupy more central positions in the middle third. Mitoma operates more as a a classic winger, looking to hold wide positions in his own half and only really drifting centrally once he either approaches or enters the box. This is further highlighted by Mitoma's underlining numbers, as he receives over 10 progressive passes per 90 while putting up a mammoth 5.79 progressive carries per game, and finds himself among the top 5% of wingers in Europe's top 5 leagues for this metric. Before moving on to his truly defining quality, Mitoma is also a notoriously hard worker, producing 1.93 tackles and 1.18 blocks per 90, making him a manager's dream. But as mentioned, by all measures, eye test included, the standout factor in Mitoma's game is his dribbling. And to anyone familiar with his game, this should come as no surprise. The Wing Wizard. Aged just 18, Mitoma turned down a professional contract with Kawasaki Frontale to study physical education at the University of Tsukuba, a customary route for Japanese players, opting to write his thesis on dribbling.
You can see he just wants to get at Trent Alexander-Arnold. Any kind of 1v1 situation, this guy loves to dribble at players. He's fascinated by it, kind of bases his game around it, almost getting in those 1v1 situations.
He actually wrote a university thesis on the art of dribbling a few years ago, Mitoma, so he knows a thing or two about running with the ball.
One of the self-proclaimed better dribblers in the team, a perhaps modest understatement if current form is anything to go by. Mitoma compared the good and not so good dribblers by strapping cameras to their heads while they played. One of his key takeaways was that the better dribblers wouldn't look at the ball, but instead they would look ahead, ready to make their next move, an element abundantly clear in Mitoma's current game. At 5 foot 8 inches, Mitoma might be on the small side, but this gives him elite levels of agility, regularly utilising body feints, quick turns and incredible bursts of speed. Mitoma is generally unpredictable, and add that to his two-footedness while positioned on the left wing, he really is a defender's nightmare with the ball at his feet. Moreover, his height gives him a good turn of pace, and combined with his technical ability, facilitates his tendency to look ahead when dribbling, regularly needing just 1 or 2 touches to ghost by defenders. Mitoma is equally comfortable getting to the byline for a cross, shot or cutback as he's running laterally across the edge of the box to create chances from a more central position. But another factor that sets Mitoma apart is his finishing. So often, most obviously seen in Adama Traore, the Premier League has been graced by wingers who can carry the ball high up the field only for their end product to be found wanting. That's not the case for Mitoma. A 0.54 non-penalty XG per 90 ranks Mitoma in the top 4% of wingers in Europe's top 5 leagues for this metric, outperforming his league XG with 5 goals and managing an impressive 6.11 touches in the opposition's box per 90. He remains a constant threat. He is clearly adept at getting into good positions, but what truly sets Mitoma apart is the cutting edge that follows. Mitoma's shot accuracy of 55.6% again ranks him in Europe's elite, the top 2% of wingers, and this largely comes down to his tendency to only shoot inside the box, averaging shots from 12 yards rather than fire off speculative efforts seen by so many wingers. His versatility in his efforts at goal also accounts for phenomenal on-pitch value, as the types of goals he scores range from headers to mazy runs, with composed finishing and snapshot chances that he buries with ease. Mitoma's stunner. Perhaps his best goal of the season came against Liverpool in their recent FA Cup tie, and in more than one way, it epitomises why Mitoma is so unique. In added time, Brighton won a free kick on the edge of the box delivered to Estupinian at the back post, who then quickly crossed it back across the box to Mitoma, rather than shoot first time, which is what most players in his position would do. Mitoma takes a touch to set himself, then quickly executes a perfect dummy that sees Joe Gomez commit to a block, thus bettering the angle for the following shot. In almost the same movement, Mitoma takes his chance, unleashing an unsavable shot past Alisson in the 2nd minute of stoppage time to knock Liverpool out of the FA Cup. In this goal alone, Mitoma's close control, composure, agility and finishing are all on show, and all at an elite level. But this is no freak incident. He's done it against both Arsenal and Everton. Full time. Brighton fans will be hoping Mitoma is just unearthing his potential. With less than 1,000 minutes in the Premier League this season, he is undoubtedly still raw. That being said, there's no denying the talent is there, and that Brighton have produced yet another hidden gem for a minimal transfer fee. Whether he can sustain this form until the end of the season remains to be seen. Nevertheless, the start of 2023 has belonged to Mitoma.